just think that it's changing. Obviously, it's changing. We always say, "Oh, it's changing." I mean, even 10 years ago, Geoff, I guess longer than that, when we were working together, it's like, "Oh my God, the business is changing so fast, and this and that and the other, and the radio game changes," and it was changing fast. It's changing ridiculously fast now, and I would be surprised if by next year we're still putting out if we're still making CDs. I'm willing to bet that most of the kids watching this right now have probably never even bought a CD. And just because they don't even know any different, it's just the new world. Just like I never bought an 8-track. It's the same kind of thing. On the streaming thing, one other thing on the streaming thing is some quick math on why I support streaming, why I'm pro streaming. Now, first of all, the songwriter's screwed. There's no saving the songwriter, in my opinion. There's just no way. I hate to say that. It makes me really sad because without great songwriters, we're going to be in trouble. But I think it's going to force artists to be better songwriters. But the royalty thing is just not going to allow. I see no way that it's going to save it, and everybody's just fighting a battle there's no win in sight. Now, from the artist standpoint, you can look, if you go on Pandora alone, I represent Thompson Square. If you go on Pandora alone, you can look, and you look back the last 90 days in their back-end system, and you can count streams across the whole catalog. On average, they generate about 20 million streams just on Pandora every 90 days across their whole catalog. So that's about 75 to 80 million streams a year annually, which is a lot. And that brings up the argument, oh my God, 80 million streams and they made, $600 or something like that in royalties, The other side of that is in country music anyway, a number one single generates about a 50 million cum audience over the life of that single. So, that's in the audience at terrestrial radio. You can debate it whether it's actually 50 million or not, because that's just the reach that every radio station has. Hard to say whether they're actually listening or not, or if they're listening in their car and paying attention, or if they're at work and they're taking phone calls. You don't really know if you're actually touching somebody with each individual play. And we spend, like I said, especially on that first single on an act, $750,000 to $1 million to get it. So you're spending that kind of money to get 50 million impressions of a song that may or may not connect, may or may not generate revenue, in any area, tickets, T-shirts, whatever. There's just no way to quantify it. And the other side of that is we're getting paid only $600, but we're getting paid a little bit of money for basically, free impressions on the other side. Like, you spent $750,000 to $1 million to get 50 million impressions of terrestrial radio. You can spend $0 to get 80 million over here, at least in the case of Thompson Square. A lot of acts it's a lot higher, some acts it's lower on the streaming side. But and to me, that's airplay, and it doesn't matter. It's not about chasing the chart. It ain't about a number one single. That's across our whole catalog. But that's 80 million plays a year. That they haven't had a radio hit in a little over a year now, and but they're still getting their catalog getting played crazy, and they can still go out and work, and their brand is still alive, and so from the label artist standpoint, I absolutely support streaming because yes, are a lot of people making money off of it? Yeah, of course they are, but at the same time, so are we. Whether we want it in an indirect way, we might not be making it on the royalty from the actual airplay, but we're making it on the road, and we're making it in other areas of an artist's career, So, but the songwriter in that, I hate to say it, but I personally just don't see. I don't see how songwriters are going to survive. I do have another theory of a way it could at least be attempted, but that's something I'm holding close to the vest. So, because I want to be the first one to try it.
Any advice for students trying to get their start as musicians, artists, or on the business side of the industry?
Move to Nashville, move to LA, or move to New York. Hear it all the time. how can I get started, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, first of all, you got to be present to win. That's half the battle. Nobody moves to town and gets hired for. I hear people all the time, well, if I could get hired, then I'd be able to move. And I'll say, well, where are you working at? Well, I'm waitressing at whatever restaurant, or it's like, well, those same jobs are here. Because the fact of the matter is, there are tons of people in line ahead of you. That are here, I should say. So if you're not here, quite frankly, you don't exist. And you need to be here. So, you graduate school, whatever, you want to be in the music business, you've got to, at least for a while, move to one of the 3 music centers and just start putting your time in, interning, working for free, working for little, doing things, just being around and learning, and making friends and relationships. And, there aren't many, the music industry is unique, and there's not like, there are not many jobs posted on monster.com, for music industry positions. More often than not, it's relationship based, or it's, in Nashville, it's a lot of kids that come through Belmont, or some of the music schools here. But that's not always the case. But there is a bit of a pipeline there with some of those schools. But it's as important to it's just, relationships are everything. It really is. I mean, you're not going to get ahead anywhere without relationships in the music business, and the only way to make those relationships is to be present. So the number one thing is move to town, and then call me again, and I'll give you the next bit of advice. But if you're not going to move to town, you might as well stop thinking about it.
Last one.
Well, in terms of being in the music industry, in terms of like recording, management, that kind of stuff, there are jobs all over the place in the industry. Be it in radio, show promoters, that kind of thing. Audio companies, lighting companies. There are jobs all over the place. But in terms of artist management, record labels, publishing, all that kind of stuff, they're all in the centers for the most part. And then once you get to a place in your career that you've got a pretty good career happening and whatnot, then a lot of people move away and do things remotely and whatnot. And but you got to plan on being here for a while.
Last one. I'm always telling students to find the balance in your life. Being a manager is a 24/7 gig. We've both seen people who get sucked into the showbiz vortex and get spit out on the other side with broken marriages, etc. How do you find time for your family and maintain the relationships that give you a full life while having a more than a full-time career?
That's a hard question to answer. I don't think there is a perfect answer to that. I think it's different for everybody. I think that the one thing about this industry is if you want to be successful, and it's not a 9-to-5 job. So yes, people do get sucked in. Typically the ones who end up being the most successful are the ones who get sucked in the most, so to speak. And I don't really have that answer. It's for me, it's always been a kind of make it up as you go along kind of thing. And but I mean, like a lot of other businesses, it's just like if you want to be successful, you have to be willing to make some sacrifices, and that's just kind of required of everybody. And I've made plenty of sacrifices, yeah, I don't really know how to answer that the best way. It's just kind of one of those things, you want it or you don't, and hopefully the people in your life either want it, or well, if you want it, hopefully the people around you in your life, in your family and whatnot, they want it too, because everybody around you is kind of part of it, so to speak. There's just as many. I just had this conversation last night with some friends that maybe not immediate family, but outside, kind of out of circle family members, aunts, uncles, things like that. They tend to fall by the wayside more than your immediate family, I think, just because of what people think the industry is, especially with artists. If you're an artist and you have a big hit and whatever, and your life changes. Obviously, there's a kind of a weird wall that tends to go up between your friends and family back home and stuff that makes people start feeling like, oh, they're not one of us anymore, or whatever, and it's really all BS, that causes a lot of rifts in relationships, But yeah, I don't really have a direct answer other than it's not easy, it's a struggle, but it's just kind of one of those things, you want it or you don't. And I think that's honestly, as I say that, I think that applies just about any business. It's like if you own a restaurant somewhere, you're going to work 80, 90 hours a week, and you're going to make the same sacrifices. So it's just a different. It's life. I don't want to say priorities because that's the wrong way to put it. But if you want something, you just have to be willing to throw yourself on the sword to get it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.